Hello, and welcome to King's Talk presented by Cap City Crown. This is Tony. With me, as always, we got John. Man, it feels a lot different from when we last recorded. The Kings were up 2-0 in the series at that point. Draymond Green was suspended for Game 3. Everything was looking up. And now the Warriors, after going back to Golden State, the Warriors won 2 straight to even up the series. And now we've recently learned that De'Aaron Fox has broke his index finger on his dominant hand and is now doubtful to play in Game 5. So it's crazy how much things can change in 1 week. But hey, hope's not lost yet. And it's a tie game. It's a tie series, and still 3 games left, 2 at home. John, how are we feeling?
I would first point to the old wisdom that is used time and time again for good reason, that a series does not start until a road team wins. And it's a best of 3 series now. And, just protect your home court and the Kings will be fine. And, Fox is going to play, right?
I mean, from what I've read, and let me just read the report out that Wojnarowski, if I said it wrong, Wojnarowski? Adrian? We should just call him Adrian. Yeah, Adrian.
Yeah, just say it and then do it in the Sylvester Stallone voice.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. But, so basically the report from Woj is that the Kings guard De'Aaron Fox fractured the very tip of his left index finger in Game 4. But there's still a hope he will try and play Game 5. Fox would need to play with a protective covering on the finger. He will be listed as doubtful. So it's kind of weird. It's like, okay, I broke this down in 3 things. He broke the very tip, which makes it seem a little more minor than, actually. I don't know what the tip of your index finger.
Well, think about it this way. Yeah. Just the tip. That's all you need to know. That's not the real thing. Come on.
Yeah, and then secondly, of course, it's his left index finger, so that's important. He's left-handed. And then it says he will need to play with a protective covering on the finger. Like, what are we talking here? Like, are we talking like what do they call it? Like a splint? Is that what little finger splints? Like, he can't play with that, can he?
We were talking about, he could play with it. I don't think he'd be able to shoot with it.
Yeah, which would be.
He started 3 of 5 from 3, and then I think he finished 1 of 6.
Mm-hmm.
You think that affected his shooting? Probably, right?
Of course. Because he had such a big first half, and I'm like, man, he really fell off.
Does it say when it happened?
Not that I see. Let me look up a little more. Let me do a little digging. I didn't see when it happened. All I've seen is during Game 4.
Right. I wouldn't even thought that Fox had gotten hurt, really, from that drop-off that happened in the third quarter. I just thought, in the same way that the Kings have often done to people, you just give a different look to a guy. I don't think Draymond Green shut him down, but you just give him a different look by using Green on him to start that third quarter and really throughout the second half. And I just thought that was kind of the reason why he didn't have a big third quarter, because he had a pretty big fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, okay. A little digging, and this isn't anything concrete, but it says this guy tweeted Anthony Slater. He has almost 200,000 followers. He works for The Athletic and covers the Warriors. So, he's credible. He says this appears to be the play that De'Aaron Fox fractured his left finger during. It looked like it says 4:35 left in the fourth, and on a floater after the whistle. So basically, whistle got blown. Fox is like, all right, I'm just going to go hit the layup. And Looney kind of tries to block it, but it looks like Looney clips his finger. And then Anthony Slater also says this is the first time you see him clutch at his hand. So if this was actually the play, it wasn't until deep into the fourth, which I guess wouldn't excuse his third quarter.
But you said 4:35 in the fourth?
Yes.
Oh my God.
What?
The video plays and the sound just comes on so loud. Is it on the shot or the foul? Which one?
Well, I don't think from the play. I don't.
Oh wait, never mind. I clicked on the wrong one.
I was gonna say. He just goes up for a layup after the whistle, and Looney is not going to let him just make a layup. So it wasn't malicious or anything. He just swatted at it.
But that kind of looks like, if watching it once, it kind of looks like maybe that had already been bothering him.
That's fair. That's true. I don't
Because
know.
the play that I watched where I clicked the wrong one, just there, he kind of like you could see him kind of like like if you were looking for it, you could kind of notice that maybe he's not necessarily nursing it, but he kind of like put it up to his side. That like now that I was looking for an injury on his left side, like maybe that had something to do with it. So I don't know. Maybe it happened then, or I guess I'd say it's still kind of up in the air, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any definitive moment when it happened. Maybe something will come out later, and we'll can.
But I don't doubt Slater that's maybe the first time it's visible, though.
So yeah, and then in the last part I was kind of talking about with like analyzing that tweet by Raj is that he will be listed as doubtful, almost like they have to list him as doubtful. I don't know how the injury report works. I mean, I don't know if you. I know you have to list people as certain things, but is it because he has a fracture that they have to list him as doubtful, or are the Kings doing it? I don't know. It just the wording is weird. Like he will be listed as doubtful instead of like he's doubtful to play. It just
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just the language it's written in. I don't know if it means anything like else. Like it has a hidden meaning. Like yeah, they're gonna have to list him as doubtful, but because he's not going to practice today or something or tomorrow. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying about that?
Yeah, I don't know
I
because
know football might it has like they're like, well, if he doesn't play today, then he has to be listed as questionable. I don't know how it works in basketball.
I don't know because when Sabonis hurt his thumb, he was questionable, which is doubtful.
To
That's
step down, it's like
yeah,
worse.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, but I just feel like that kind of ends up being irrelevant because it just feels like he's gonna play. But the issue that we kind of glazed over a little bit was that splint or protection or whatever on the tip of his finger.
The protection on
Um,
the tip.
yeah, yeah, on the of his finger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, uh, and I guess it would be like some kind of plastic splint or something because we were talking about that again with Sabonis's thumb. It just seems like it would be some kind of plastic splint with some tape, but that would make jump shooting very difficult.
Like impossible at that point.
Yeah,
Even layups would be difficult with anything around your index finger. If we're talking pinky or maybe even ring finger, like different. But I mean, the middle finger. That's a lot. That's like it's the second most important finger than the thumb, right? I mean,
yeah,
you do your spin with it, you do your release with it. It's the usually the last or second to last finger to touch the ball, especially in a jump shot or on a layup.
hmm
Um, it kind of gives that the ball its direction. So I don't know. Like I'm very like it's weird. The very tip. Like I just want to know like what are they like the very tip to me is like a centimeter on your finger, right? Like your nail almost, like less than your nail, like your nail bed. Um, I don't know. It's kind of confusing to me. And how do you break that?
the thing about the hand, I just looked up like an anatomy chart of like a hand, and the hand seems a lot less complex than the foot because the foot has all sorts of different bones.
Yeah.
But the hand just kind of seems like it's simple. It's almost just like every knuckle you have, it's just a different. I don't know. Now I'm looking at this for. I'm not a. I've never gone to medical school, but it seems like you get more complicated in the wrist area. It seems like the fingers are pretty straightforward. You have like kind of the very tip of it, and then kind of like I don't know. Like it just seems like where every knuckle is. Maybe halfway at the very top though, there's kind of like a break. Maybe at the fingernail, like you were saying. So that could be more considerable than that sounds actually, because that could actually be like an eighth of the finger right there. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No,
But again, what the hell do I know? But that's just my cursory assessment.
but I was kind of thinking about like scenarios of how the Kings can handle this. One, he plays on Tuesday or sorry Wednesday, and that's that. He plays like, and we'll figure out. We'll see how he plays, but he'll play. Second, where he doesn't play, and you not play him, and you kind of just hope that they don't like we're at home. Warriors are terrible on the road. Do you try to get lucky with him not being there? But it's like then at that point, it's like, well, if they lose, I mean, you kind of assume he would play game 6, but it's like, how, like, is it really going to heal that much in like 4 days?
Yeah, it's not going to get any better. If it's any kind of break in the bone or it takes several weeks to at least get a little better. I feel like a week. I mean, like if he had a week before, like if this was before another series or something, and he had like close to a week, that'd be great. But I don't even think that would make that much of a difference. But like, let alone a few days.
I don't know. It's just interesting. I think he'll play. I don't see Fox just start sitting out these games, especially in his first playoff trip and in such a critical game at 2-2 at home too, where it's like, okay, let's take advantage of this. But it is a major blow because it's definitely a setback for him with it being on his dominant hand. I just have to wonder just how much it's going to affect his jump shooting and honestly just his play in general, like passing and layups and everything. So, I mean, it definitely won't help, but
Yeah, he played on a foot bruise for like a month. I think he'll play.
yeah.
Um, I know that's a completely different injury, but kind of going off of that though, I mean, what what do you think? I mean, it sounds like a couple of guys are going to obviously have to step up. First of all, though, I think you're going to have to see Fox. So I guess on the question of him being a liability, I don't really worry about that too much unless he tries to shoot on it or something like that, and he's just like being really inefficient because of the injury. But I feel like we've seen him do a mix of different things during this series, and I think he can really kind of hone in and be in a nice tandem with Davion Mitchell. Obviously, Davion's Davion, but Fox has been so good at that, especially in the first two games at home with the home crowd behind him. He was really good at that, and I feel like he could still make an impact there. You can still try to get downhill. It'd be interesting to see how much his just feel for the ball on handles or, like you said, on layups and things at the rim, how that'll be different. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But it still feels like he'll be able to do stuff. Obviously, a huge element, especially when games get close and he starts to take over. The Kings are going to have to find a different way to win down the stretch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting. You're obviously going to have to expect more from Malik Monk. I think that's the guy that's got to step up in that position. I think that's kind of easy. But I mean, who else do you think? I mean, like, how do you think they go about this? And do you agree with that assessment of seeing other things from Fox? Like, he'll still play a lot of minutes and do stuff. It'll just be far less active on the offensive end.
Yeah. I mean, of course, he can still play good defense and he can still run the offense. I don't know. I think if he really can't shoot and hit a layup, like I'm interested. It's more of the layups for me. How much is this going to affect him from hitting a layup? If it's going to affect him enough where it's like, oh man, like he can't really hit these. It's like I don't think he should play because that's just too much of a liability on offense. It's like, all right, why are you out there? I think it's going to be 4-on-5 offense at that point. Even if he can play defense, it's just like, well, I mean, he's not even a threat at that point. He can't shoot. You're almost baiting him to shoot every point. You can play off him already because he's already not a good shooter. And if he's hurt, it's like, okay, then he can really collapse the paint. I mean, that's why I'm like, maybe he doesn't play. Like, I'm not saying he won't want to play. I don't think it'll be like a pain tolerance thing. I think it's more of, is he going to be able to still be enough of a threat where he's going to draw a presence on offense?
I mean, if guys are just going to expect him to try to get as close to the rim and not, pull away and do a fall away jumper or something like that, where he's a little bit more one dimensional in what he might be able to, or in how he might be able to get up a shot, that could definitely affect it. But I guess it's such a question of like, how, what the exact effect's going to be. Because obviously, like a layup with it through no traffic, a layup in transition, I feel like he's got it. I feel like
Yeah,
he could have a whole finger broken and he could still get that in. But it's about, with Andrew Wiggins guarding you, I mean, that's a little difficult.
kind of going back to your question. Yeah, I mean, of course, you're going to need Malik to step up and Davion. There's the obvious guys. They're, the point guards or guys who can run the offense and get assists and the guards like him. But who I really want to see step up, and maybe not just for I mean, I guess a little. It's just Kevin Herter, and not just in this situation, but obviously he's not been playing well in this series so far. I mean, if he had a little bit of a better game, we could have won yesterday or on Sunday as well. But he's also a guy who can handle the ball. He can get some assists. Guy who can maybe not so much run the offense, but maybe run some plays. Maybe that 2-man game with Sabonis and him being at that guard position where Fox plays. He needs to. I think him stepping up would be critical, and you're also going to lose a lot of points if Fox isn't going to be playing. Fox is currently at 31.5 points a game. I know it's only 4 games in. That's the third most ever in playoff history, which is kind of cool. I know it's only 4 games in, but if you're going to lose that scoring load already, and a guy you're not getting really much of a scoring load from is Herter, like I'd really want to see Herter step up and really become a threat.
Keegan Murray broke out for a great game. And one of the things that he said he was able to do, because remember, throughout the whole series, Golden State's played excellent defense, maintained excellent pressure, guarding dribble handoffs, which Keegan Murray and Kevin Herter in particular use so much. And that's in large part played into why they've struggled shooting. And Murray said he just had to be a little bit more aggressive, kind of getting through it and trying to get shots up. And meanwhile, what we're talking Kevin Herter, who, what did he get only one shot up?
I don't know.
No, he got 4. He got 1-3 up. He got
Okay.
1-3 up. So I don't know if it's an aggression thing or taking the physicality, but he needs to do something to find some space, get an open shot. I mean, they were talking a lot in between games 3 and 4 about they feel like they're getting open threes, but they're just not in the rhythm of the offense, which kind of points to the fact that maybe it just Herter's got to get an extra dribble in there, maybe to get up his threes, where he's just not able to get as much space off those handoffs immediately. So it just seems like Murray fought through it with more aggression, he says. I mean, I just feel like there's got to be able to be an adjustment that Herter can use to do it. And I think with Fox being so limited as we expect him to be, hopefully for the Kings' sake, that can bring the best out of Herter. But I don't know. They've guarded all the little tricks that he and Domas do so well, it seems, that I don't know. I mean, it seemed like earlier in the series, he was really good at getting up little mid-range shots and whatnot. But that's kind of fallen away over the last 2 games, right?
Yeah, he did it well in game 2 after his bad game 1. It's like, okay, he wasn't hitting threes. I think he went 2 for 9 in game 3 or game 2 from 3 after even having a worse game 1. But he also scores, I think, 15 points by just getting into the paint and trying to score. And he did well in that regard. You still want to see him be a threat from deep. But yeah, game 3 and game 4, he was... I think game 3, he actually still scored like 14 points or so. But game 4, I think he was just... I mean, I don't think he was just non-existent. I don't think he played much because of it either. Because it's like, all right, this guy just cannot shoot. And
No,
something
and
also for Herter is that he's getting blown by. I feel like
I was just
every
going to say.
possession.
I was
Like,
going to
dude,
say.
I mean, he needs to step it up big, especially after seeing Murray step it up. Like, all right, you're gonna let the rookie step up before you, the guy with one of the more bigger playoff resumes on this team. You're gonna let Murray score 23 before you even can get it flowing again. So maybe I don't know. Maybe that'll motivate him.
I don't know. I mean, just kind of on the Fox thing, it's just like 30. He scored 38, and they lost by 1 point.
Man,
Like, where are those points going to come from?
yeah, they're gonna have to come from some Herter. Sabonis is gonna have to do a lot better on the offensive end. He had that good game 2, and he hasn't been terrible. But he's clearly not been the Sabonis that we were used to seeing during the regular season. I get it. Yeah, the Warriors are playing him well. Looney is playing him very well himself down low, but he's got to be better. I don't know. It would be really nice if he could hit a mid-range shot. He's been taking a lot, and they're baiting him into. I feel like the Warriors are baiting the Kings into taking a lot of jumpers, especially with Fox and Sabonis. But it's like we know Sabonis can hit those shots. Maybe not like the highest clip, but if he can if they're gonna give him that elbow jumper, it's like, dude, like he made one yesterday or on Sunday, but I don't know. I just think him being able to hit that mid range a little at a little higher clip will really open it up for him. But I mean, down low in the post, I feel like he's just been pretty bad. They're collapsing on him quickly, and he's taking too long to get up a shot in the post, or Looney's just too strong for him. And maybe not too strong, but just playing good enough defense where Sabonis can't get to a spot. Yeah, I haven't really liked watching him down there so far. So if he can maybe just get that jump shot a little better, I think he can. I mean, I think he can score 30 if you really. I mean, not if you really tried, but if you get that game, that part of the game open for him, and maybe you can get some points back that way. Because we all know Sabonis is capable of scoring,
Mm-hmm.
but we really haven't seen it except in that game too. And that was just because the Warriors, Draymond and Looney were just in such big foul trouble. I mean, who else is going to be on him?
I mean, against Looney, and Looney's looked good. Sabonis has had his fair share every now and then. It's just not an efficient way. You you get why he's looking for better shots, but it really does. The questions over the last two games have just been like they're giving you those mid-range shots. And I don't think the prescription here is for him to shoot threes, but it's just
No.
like, man, if he could somehow get in a rhythm just to be able to get down those shots, especially if they're just giving it to him. And I feel like, Fox isn't going to be able to eat as much from the elbow. Maybe Domas should kind of fill in there. I don't know, but it's just you hate to hang your hat in any way on jump shooting. Are the Kings going to be able to shoot over 40% from three? Is that a reliable thing? I mean, that's not something you want to rely on. That was one of the big worries coming into this series, I feel like. So I
No, but
don't.
they could be shooting better than they are right now.
That's true. I mean, like pointing to individual guys. I don't know. Just on Domas, it's just like we'll see. I mean, he had 8 assists in Game 4, but I think the majority of them came in the first half, and he had like none, maybe like one or two in the second half. And I don't know. It just seems like the normal mode of operation for him is just so different in this series.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he needs to be quicker in the post. I mean, the Warriors are going to throw another guy down there to try to strip him, which I think they've done really well. And he's just taken way too long. Like Looney's already a good defender. It's like if you can't find your spot within 2 seconds, kick it out. 2 to 3 seconds down there, but they're just going to collapse him, and that's how he's been turning the ball over a lot.
The thing that would, again, to kind of bring it back to Huerter and even Barnes, you make the Warriors know that you have multiple 3-point shooting threats out there that helps the spacing so much because you kind of saw it early in the game. I feel like Sabonis went down low and Jordan Poole was guarding Keegan Murray, and Murray might have hit one at that point. I don't think this was his first one, but Jordan Poole kind of stayed down in the paint to help Draymond kind of disrupt Sabonis, and Sabonis just kicked it up to the top to Murray, and he got an open three that he sunk. And later in the game, they're not going to give Murray that shot as much. That takes so much pressure off of Sabonis. I mean, obviously. So, I mean, as much as you want to say like either like Sabonis needs to do X, Y, or Z, or the Warriors have done a really good job on Sabonis, it'd be really interesting to see how much it changes if you have multiple 3-point shooting threats out there. Because like when you think about it, it's like the only people that really shot well from three were like Fox and Murray, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Fox usually has the ball in his hands a lot of the times. I mean, now we're talking about with Sabonis out there, but it's just like you get multiple threats out there, it's going to really ease a lot of the pressure on Sabonis. I mean, Barnes was 1 of 6 from 3. Huerter 0 of 1. It's just those are two guys that need to be threats.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it will close down Sabonis' game as well if those guys aren't hitting.
But kind of going down the line here, Malik Monk's going to have to step up in this game. And, you look at the statistical line for him, and he was pretty decent in the sense that he had his 16 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That looks great. He did go 5 of 14, which isn't like eye-poppingly bad, but it's a little inefficient. And one of the reasons for that was, and Mike Brown didn't call Malik Monk out for this, but I just think Malik Monk, like when I heard Mike Brown say this in the press conference, I immediately thought of Malik Monk because there were like immediate examples that came to mind of him doing this. And early on in the press conference in his opening remarks, Mike Brown was like, there's just too many times where guys are dribbling into 2, sometimes 3 defenders and just putting up some crazy shot and expecting a foul to come his way. And he pointed out, like, if I'm a ref with those kinds of shots in the playoffs, I'm not going to blow the whistle. And he just kind of was ridiculing the team for complaining too much and looking for foul calls and expecting it, kind of alluding to the fact that, the playoffs are more physical and whatnot. And regardless of who's getting calls and who's not getting calls, you can't expect calls in the playoffs. And like I said, I feel like Malik Monk had a few times. Pretty glaringly, it happened late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He took the ball and just dribbled right into like 3 defenders. And if you're watching the TNT broadcast, Doris Burke was pointing out, like, what the hell are you doing? And rightfully so. It's a little over ambitious and over aggressive. And Mike Brown has taken a lot from like Steve Kerr in the sense that you need to play fast but play disciplined. And it just was not disciplined. It took the total second element of that philosophy out of mind. So there needs to be a little bit more awareness in that regard. And just overall, I mean, like, I don't think it just is Monk. I mean, like you said, you see Sabonis kind of complain to the refs a lot. And you saw Fox do it a lot at different points in the series. I mean, throughout the series, he's done it. I mean, it seemed like down the stretch and really all season he's kind of done it. But I think at a certain point, Mike Brown's gripe with the team was kind of necessary. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. I mean, especially that Monk one at the end too, where it's like that was a very important possession. And yeah, he blew it. He went for the foul call. It was like a 2-on-1 too. And he was trying to do a fast break by himself, and he was looking for a foul call. But it's like, dude, like you're down. I think they were down 5 or so. I think that was right before that Curry timeout mishap. So you can't be looking for calls. You haven't really seen a ton of them. I mean, in game 2 was kind of crazy, and I think, like you said too, and we were kind of talking about this last week. It's like they're gonna go back home, the Warriors, and the calls are gonna start going their way. And I'm not saying like, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like the calls were going the Kings' way at home, and then I think they started going the Warriors' way a little more when they went home. So maybe they'll be different in game 5.
They were just too impatient. They really thought that they'd come out and brought it after kind of getting hit in the mouth to start game 3, first time on the road in a playoff environment, and they were in it the whole time. They played very physically, and they might have honestly been the more physical team, but not by a huge margin. And the inexperience and kind of making bad shot selections, expecting calls, all these things just really came into play. And I guess like that can come out in an optimistic sense as like a massive lesson. They got that out of the way,
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting with the urgency up because Fox is kind of ailing a little bit. Are they going to be able to stay disciplined with that kind of challenge?
Yeah, they gotta. I mean, they want any chance of winning the series. I mean, it's not even if they want to win more games. I mean, Fox broke his finger. I mean, it's important in game 5, of course, but it's like, man, his finger's broken. If they make it in the playoffs, they somehow win this game and win the series, they're gonna have to deal with the same thing next series, unless his hand really isn't bothering him and we're just overblowing this, which I doubt it. They're gonna have to figure it out for more than just this game, this important game 5, whether Fox plays or not. They're going to be dealing with now an injured De'Aaron Fox going forward.
That's true. And they've responded to challenges before, and it's just this is very difficult. We'll see, but getting up good shots and not expecting foul calls is probably a good place to start.
Yeah, 100%. It is. Let's hope they can do it.
Oh, another thing that cost them the game in terms of inexperience was on two straight possessions, I think.
Yeah, I think
they just gave far too much space. The Kentucky connection of Fox and Monk back to back gave Curry and then Clay far too much space. The Curry one was quite egregious.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was just a terrible route. Both of them just took terrible routes to the ball. That might be an experience, but also, and Mike Brown kind of posited this in the post-game press conference, that might have been a little bit of fatigue, whether mental or physical. Do you think that was something that was wearing on them, or was that such a slugfest on the road that a few days off that gets a little better? Because those were just, I don't expect them to make those mistakes again. Those were so bad. That's sick. Like as Mike Brown said, to put it in another perspective, that's 6 points in a game that finished with a 1 point margin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That Fox one was pretty bad. It's just like, dude, it's Steph Curry. Like, stay on him. Um, I don't know. I don't expect him to make those mistakes. And maybe it's these games are going to mean a little more going forward. Maybe they'll be a little more sharp. Like that game was like, even if we lose, it's 2-2. It's not like we're going down 3-1 like they would. I mean, they better not make those same mistakes because yeah, they missed those two shots. Kings could, I mean, technically have won by 4, right, or 5, 4. I don't know, but
Well, they missed one. I mean, the thing is it's like, is there a fatigue factor? Because it wasn't just those two plays. There were a couple transition plays. I think one where Clay just took it all the way coast to coast, and there's just nobody was on top of stopping the ball. That's not like Clay's a burner, you know.
yeah, that's true.
So it's just like, and Thompson had a decent game. I mean, he had a really good game actually, but come on, that stuff can't happen. And they'd been pretty decent at transition defense really all season and in the playoffs. So it was kind of bizarre to kind of just see them drop off like that. And I
Hmm.
wonder if it was just, it seemed like fatigue in some way or another had to play into it. But I wonder if it was fatigue in the moment or fatigue overall at this point, playing at that point, game 86 going on game 87.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. It didn't seem fatigue to me. I never really thought about fatigue.
Well, it's interesting too because I feel like on the notion of fatigue, it's like that could easily be extended to the Warriors too, because Curry played like 42 minutes,
Hmm.
and the buzz in Bay Area media is just like, whoa, like, is he going to be able to do that? I guess in the same sense as the Fox thing, it's like if they get beyond this series, it's not just about getting beyond the series; it's about what happens after that too. So I don't know, but it almost felt like more of a mental fatigue for the Kings,
Yeah, I would say it'd be more mental than physical.
and that could easily be it could, going back to it, it could be the inexperience of just kind of getting lost in the moment. I mean,
Hmm.
because in combination with those and the mistakes on offense of bad shot selection and whatnot, all of those kind of compiled into just this pile of mistakes. I mean, the Warriors made mistakes too. Draymond after the game said he gave Fox too much space on that late three, and they called the timeout when they didn't have it. Kevon Looney had a couple moving screens in the game. He had one late, and then Steve Kerr decided to challenge it. Steve Kerr and Mike Brown remind me so much of, they're one and the same in just so many different ways. Listening to Steve Kerr in post game press conferences, crediting other guys, being friendly and funny with the media, all that stuff, they're the same. And in the same way, they both make terrible decisions to challenge calls.
Yeah, I don't know why he thought he was gonna win that.
I think the interesting thing was Curry calling that timeout, because that just
Oh yeah.
seems so unlike him for a guy that has so much experience. And Steve Kerr tried to take credit for it afterwards, which again reminded me of Mike Brown. He's like, "Oh, that's my fault. I should have told the guys that we didn't have any timeouts coming out of the huddle." And yeah, maybe he should have said that, but it's like Kerr and Mike Brown say it all the time. Like, and Popovich said it. It's like at the end of the day, these players are great, and they kind of things have to come from within. And like Steph Curry just dropped the ball there.
They almost paid for it too. Imagine if the Kings won that game because of that play. That'd be iconic.
Yeah, that would
And
be
especially after that Fox 3, it's like, oof. Like, whoa.
seriously.
That's why I
They,
was so
they
upset when they missed the game winner. It made me just extra upset. I'm like, oh man, that could have been one of the craziest comebacks.
That was such a just a battle,
Ah,
but it was
that's
just
such a
riddled with
good
so
game.
many mistakes in the last 5 or 6 minutes. It's just like,
Ah, they had plenty of opportunities and they blew a lot of them down the stretch. And it was rough. I mean, I lost them in the game. It was a slugfest, but geez, a lot of sloppy play too. Game 5. It's gonna be crazy at home too. Man, that's a game I would want to go to. That's gonna be intense.
yeah, there's something to be said again. How we kind of started the podcast. The series doesn't start until a road team wins, and it just kind of seems like the home crowd has been a lot of the difference maker. Like the Kings really played so well in front of the home crowd in their first two games. Game 3, the home crowd helped the Warriors kind of punch the Kings first and ultimately, win that game pretty handily. Um, and then game 4 was so close. Again, the home team won. It just feels like, I mean, obviously, I would say that turnovers seems to be the main kind of thing. If you can limit the Warriors' turnovers, I mean, if the Warriors limit their turnovers, they put themselves in a position to win. If you can force the Warriors to commit turnovers, you're putting yourself in a great position to win as the Kings. And I think that's a big difference maker. But even that could come down to home versus road. I mean, it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
huge differential during the season for the Warriors. I think they only committed about one more turnover per game on the road as opposed to home. And turnovers have just kind of been an issue overall. But it'd be interesting to see how much being on the other floor affects that, because the Warriors did a really good job of limiting their turnovers. And the home crowd's just been so big in each of these games that I wonder if that'll tip the balance in any way, or if that played any part in the stark contrast between their ball security in the first two games as opposed to the previous two.
I still feel good going back home just because I mean I was nervous going into the series. I was nervous and then we won the first two. I'm like, okay. So it's like kind of going back home. It's like, yeah, the Warriors might have just beat us twice while we were on the road, but it's like they kind of like those first two games. I mean, the first game was close. The second one was more of like, okay, we kind of take care of business a little better. But it's like they're kind of showing why they were just so bad on the road. Um, and so that makes me optimistic about returning back home, even with Fox's injury. It's like they might be the reigning champions, but they were bad on the road during the regular season, and they didn't win. They haven't won a game on the road yet in the playoffs. So I'm definitely optimistic about Game 5, and I guess Game 7 if it reaches.
I mean, the Warriors have to, they know it. They put themselves in a position where they have to at least win one in Sacramento, and that is at least proven so far to be a monumental task. But Kevin Huerter also said between games 3 and 4 that he and the guys feel like they got to win one in San Francisco just to avoid kind of that game 7. Because I feel like you saw it down the stretch in game 4. You just get to that really peak moment at the end of game 7. The inexperience, you'd have to really worry about it at that point. I think one of the things that was interesting coming into the playoffs is we were talking about who can be, as we call it, the enforcer, and kind of alluding to not necessarily a complete replica of Draymond, because there's really no one quite like Draymond, as we know, but kind of being that fiery guy. And we saw Fox bark at Draymond a bit, I think, in that first quarter. And it just kind of seems like Fox could be that guy. And Draymond, after the game, was like, yeah, he was just standing up for his guy, because that was right after Keegan Murray had gotten poked in the eye by Draymond,
Mm-hmm.
probably pretty inadvertently. But Draymond also had said that he'd made it a point to get a technical early. So I don't know. I just kind of back to the point there. It just seems like Fox, more than just kind of being a guy that takes over on the floor, and we've seen his leadership really shine this season. It kind of seems like he could take that step up to be that, like, really enforcer status.
For sure. I mean, just after seeing him jaw with Draymond, it was nice to see Fox do that. And I mean, he's by far been the best player on the court for the Kings too. And I know like there's a difference between a leader and an enforcer, but I mean, he just seems like the guy to do it. He kind of seems like more no nonsense sometimes when he's on the court than others. And I would love to see Fox be the enforcer too, just because I feel like being the enforcer and one of the better players on the floor, it puts a lot more pressure on you. And Fox, he just he thrives under pressure. We see him do it in the fourth quarter in clutch and when the game matters, and in the playoffs so far. If he can put extra pressure on him by being that enforcer, and like he was like talking to Draymond, jawing with him, like you don't want to see Fox go after Draymond and then just like score 12 points. Such a bad look. But no, he goes out and drops 38 on him. It's like perfect. Like this is the guy who should do it, and it seems like he can do it.
Yeah, and I think Mike Brown wants him to do it. I mean, him or Domas. I don't remember what game it was. Maybe like near the end of the regular season. It might have been the game they lost against Minnesota where they could have clinched at home, but it was some kind of disappointing loss like that. And Mike Brown was like, it's on Fox and Sabonis to expect more of their teammates, to kind of make them more accountable. Kind of with that whole philosophy of having things and leadership come from within, because the head coach can only do so much. So Mike Brown wants it, and I just feel like Fox can really, and he's already kind of there. He just feels like the closest thing to that type of leader, and just a little bit of intense playoff basketball can, I think, really help him kind of push along in the right direction in that regard.
Yeah, I do too. It's good for him.
But like talking about Draymond Green, we came into this podcast talking about like how last week things felt completely different in that the Kings were up 2-0 and they were going into game 3 without Draymond Green. And they played game 3 not only without Draymond Green, but without GP2. Everything was kind of set up as a nice opportunity. And, you know, the Warriors came out and played extremely well and hit the Kings first and pretty hard. And Draymond gave, I guess, like some speech. It really kind of brought the team together. And then he made this resounding return to the floor. Like we just said, he gets that double technical called, kind of lights a fire underneath guys, and then comes in the second half and makes a defensive impact in the game. As much as it seemed like it was a advantage for the Kings, it really kind of seemed like an advantage for the Warriors in the end, no?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like it. They won game 3 regardless, with him or without him. Clearly, they won without him, and then he got them all fired up for game 4. And I think it's just going to add the fuel to the fire for the rest of the game or of the series now. And I think it's going to make the Warriors fans. You know, we were talking about home court advantage. I mean, every time Sabonis was touching the ball too. He was getting booed. I don't know if that affects him really or anything, but it definitely gets the fans and the team a lot more into the series when something like that happens against one of your players.
Yeah. So Sabonis said it didn't affect him personally, but yeah, that I think you're right. It gets a buzz in the building and it gives the energy in the right direction for the home team. But it'll be interesting to see how things play out because I think the setting changing is going to really limit that. But just the way things went in games 3 and 4, you can look at it either way. It's like that either gave an advantage to the Warriors or the Kings did not take advantage of an opportunity. Do you see it in any way more than the other way?
Man, it was either the Kings didn't take advantage or what?
Or it was the whole thing was just beneficial for the Warriors no matter what.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know really how to see it, to be honest. Like, I felt like the Warriors, I feel like they were going to win game 3 with or without Draymond. It's like they're the defending champs at home. Like, you really think Steph Curry is going to go down 3-0 for the first time in his career to the Kings? I didn't see that happening. And then game 4, I mean, it was a close game regardless. I don't know. I think the Kings could. I mean, you could obviously say the Kings didn't take advantage of it, of Draymond being out. But at the same time, for me, I'm like, man, even if Draymond was there, I mean, they got blown out regardless, right? So, yeah, that's
I
true.
think honestly, Draymond just feeds off that. I mean, like he came back and he wanted to get a technical. He said he wanted to let people know, that he's not going to change. Which, regardless what you think about it, it seems like that worked out for everybody involved on the Warriors. And I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting how so many things can change and shift so quickly. And
Yeah, I mean, it benefited the Warriors, of course, but it's like those were also 2 games at home, and it's like I
yeah,
feel like we can say the same thing once the Kings get back at home. It's like I don't know, like we saw Fox, he got a little chip on his shoulder too from all this, I'm assuming, and Sabonis will too. Now I'm interested to see how they respond at their home court now with all that's happened. Like, and they responded well in the one game too from that incident with Draymond. Like they won that
hmm
game. So I mean, I definitely benefit the Warriors since he's been suspended, but I don't know. I'm waiting for the series to end to see. I guess whoever wins, I guess benefits the most. I think he can benefit the Kings just as much. I just think it's been a little overshadowed that Draymond got a return at home and the Warriors won both games.
Talking about that entertainment value, it's high.
Yeah, super high.
It's up there.
I know. I'm so bummed. There's like 2 days I'll be doing games. I'm like, oh man, Wednesday. Let's play Tuesday. Play
I feel like
Tuesday
I
and
need.
play
I feel like
Thursday.
I feel like I need the break. Like,
I
I feel like
can't. I'm
I
like,
feel sore the next day. I'm like, okay, take it easy.
I just need to just keep watching. Like, man, it's funny. It's just like, yeah, of course I missed the Kings meeting in the playoffs, but like I'm a diehard fan, right? So it's like when they lose, especially like when they lose, I'm not happy. But it's like watching them lose, like watching them lose on game three was like, man, this sucks. But it's like whatever, you got killed, and it's just frustrating. But it's like it's easier to get over. But it's like after that Barnes miss, I was just like sitting, like leaned over against like my counter. I'm like, oh my god. Like you, like of course you don't miss that feeling, but it just comes with the intensity, right? So it's like, of course I miss them being in the playoffs, but that's just like a feeling I haven't had in so long regarding the Kings, and it's like, man. So it's like I can only imagine how I'm gonna feel like during a game seven or something like that. It's gonna be, I don't know. It's just like I said this last week. It's just this is all new experiences for me as an adult, and it's never happens.
I mean, closing out here, going into Game 5, Kings win 2, Warriors win 2, tied 2-2, if I do my math correctly.
I think.
I guess there's two ways to look at this. I feel like there's an optimistic view for the Kings and a very like concerning viewpoint for the Kings. And I think there's kind of fair points on both sides. You want to go through reasons to be kind of optimistic going forward and maybe reasons to be concerned?
Yeah. So on my end, reasons to be optimistic. You have home court advantage. I mean, that's Warriors are terrible on the road, and we've only shown that home teams will win these games. So that's a good reason to be optimistic. And even if, and but the Kings also showed in Game 4 that if they need to win on the road, that they might be able to. So I mean, I think if they lose for some reason on in game five, then I think they showed that they can duke it out with the Warriors and take one on the road if needed. Um, and I guess another reason to be optimistic is that the Kings are still like even in that game four. I don't really even want to talk about game three. I don't think there's really any reason to be optimistic after game three. Um, But I mean, game four, like you're still losing by one with Herter and Murray. Or it's not Murray, sorry, Herter and Barnes having the games they did. It's just like, man, if the starters can just all play like good basketball as a unit, I mean, I think the Kings win this. I think if Herter as was shooting the ball well all series, we could have swept. Honestly, okay, maybe not game three. The game was terrible, but it's like if that dude just and Barnes, I mean, Barnes has been good, but he just did not have that good game four. So if they can all collectively put in a good game, I think they win the game. And it's something we've seen them do as a group a lot of times during the season. So it's definitely uncharacteristic when two guys are off, let alone sometimes three, with like the way Murray was playing the first couple games. Um, so that makes me optimistic too. I think Herter can find it. He has that experience. If we can get his scoring back, I mean, it seems like we can win the games. And I don't expect Barnes to have many games like he did in game four. So those are my biggest reasons to be optimistic. Reasons to be pessimistic. You're playing the defending champions. You're playing Steph Curry. Um, at times it just seems like the Kings do not have an answer for the Warriors offense when Steph Curry's out there and they just get any bucket they want. Usually a lot of open lanes to the basket. That's been kind of concerning for me. And if they can stop him like two more times and not let that happen for the majority of a game, not the majority, but when it matters. Inexperience, of course, of the Kings. That kind of goes with the Warriors being the defending champions, I suppose. Um, and I mean, I think the biggest one right now is Fox's finger. I mean, that's how concerned should we be? And I mean, I think get the answer with as little as we know, other than the tip of his finger being broken. It's like we should be kind of worried, or at least a little.
Yeah. I don't think I need to add anything for the optimism thing. Like home court advantage, that whole thing. The fact that certain guys haven't even stepped up and you still won 2 games and played really close in game 4. Um, Also, I would say like you have to think about like the Warriors got great games from their 4 top scorers. Jordan Poole finally showed up. Klay Thompson had a great game on both sides of the ball. So did Andrew Wiggins, even though he only had 18 points. Only 18 points, though. That's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Steph Curry. Are all 4 of them going to be able to fire it up? I mean, against a team that did not have all their weapons firing it off? I mean, you kind of have that advantage too. But kind of honing in on the pessimistic thing, I kind of alluded to it earlier. As much as I think it can come down to the home floor, and we'll see in this regard if it does, in fact, come down to the home floor as to what happens with turnovers in game 5. But Steve Kerr talked about how with Draymond like not playing in game 3 and them playing basically a 4-guard lineup, they noticed that really helped with the turnover difficulty because it spread the floor out more. It provided more spacing. And if the Warriors all of a sudden have a handle on their turnovers, that can be, I think that's really comes down to the difference in the game. Because I think at this point, the Warriors are going to be physical. The Kings are going to be physical. And I feel like the physicality will kind of be matching up against each other, much like you saw in game 4. It was pretty close. Maybe the edge went to the Kings. But I don't know if it'll make as much of a difference as it did in the first 3 games. And that's after 1 game, and I was really thinking that was the key to it. But I think it comes down to turnovers. And not really necessarily because the Kings had less turnovers than the Warriors in game 4, but only by 1, I think. And it was only like a difference of 3 points off those turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really about the fact that the Warriors only had 11 turnovers in both games 3 and 4 at home. And if the turnovers were in fact, or the limited turnovers were in fact because they figured out something to do with spacing and they tinkered some issue, that and that very well could be the thing. That's kind of the biggest reason to be a little concerned. Because if the Warrior, I think you need to force the Warriors into turnovers. That's been their biggest issue all season, really. And if they have that under wraps, then you start talking about the weapons they have, the experience, all these things. And I think that can kind of be kind of zeroed in on as kind of a main factor. And the Warriors have shown that they may have a handle on it, but it'll be interesting to see if things change with the settings changing to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, because I mean they look like a different team back at home.
yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Not totally, but I mean, like Steph started going off. The home crowd was into it. That seemed like a big factor, even on the Kings' end. So, well, yeah. I mean, let's see if they can continue their low turnovers on the road. Like I said, I cannot wait until Game 5. I really wish they were playing today.
Yeah,
but,
you gotta wait though. Build it up.
Yeah, it's gonna be big build up, biggest biggest game in the Golden One Center history. Clearly, I mean, we'll keep saying that every game, right? But I can't wait to see that crowd in Game 5. It's gonna be. I mean, I think it was electric Game 1s and 2, but man, especially with the you don't need a win. I wouldn't say it's completely a must win in that regard, but it's like you really want to win. And Kings fans are going to make that known, especially with Draymond coming back to Sac too. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Did you say you don't think Game 5 is a must-win for the Kings?
No. I like
really?
if we're talking must wins. Like I'm not trying to I'm not like do I really 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 want the Kings to win? Yes. Would I say it's a must win? I don't think it's a must win game.
Huh. So you would not have an issue with the Warriors winning 3 straight and having an opportunity to close out on their home floor?
I mean, I would have an issue with that. I just don't think it's a must win.
Yeah. I think it is a must win.
I
think for exactly that reason. I just think
that's fair.
You have to, and just the whole notion of just like a series does not start until that road team wins. And it's so important for the Kings to win this game.
I think I just see this series going 7 games, regardless. I don't know. I just thinking if the Warriors win, I mean, clearly if the Warriors win on in Game 5, it'd be easier for them to say they'll win Game 6 than the Kings winning in Game 6. I don't know. It just seems like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the definitions in my head of a must win, but you're not completely out of it. You can still come back 3-2. Clearly, it's like there's differences in this, or yeah, the Warriors are going to have 1-3 straight, um, and they're going to go back home. But it's like I don't know. I could see the Kings winning on the road. I don't think the Kings. I just see this game. I see the series going Game 7, regardless. That's why maybe I'm not saying it's a must win. Whether the Kings win on Game 5 or not, I think this series is going 7 games.
Hmm. I would just say that one of the common things that the Warriors throughout the years have been compared to, both in the context of a single game, a moment in a game, and kind of a moment in a series, is they tend to avalanche and it becomes overwhelming. And I just think that that kind of momentum, I mean, I don't think the momentum's in the Warriors' corner now. I think it's still kind of up in the air because it's just all the home teams have won. But it's just once that happens, I feel like that initiates an avalanche. Now the Kings could prove it wrong, but I think that that's not a position that the Kings would want to be in. I really think that that's a severe disadvantage.
Yes.
But we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of torn up on this Fox issue still, on who will take Game 5 and how big of a deal it is. Because if Fox doesn't play, like, oof. But we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see.
I mean, the thing we've said all series coming into the series, even switching settings in between games, 2 and 3, even now going into Game 5, it's just a lot of question marks. It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be fun though. It's gonna be a fun. I think, like I said, I think there's gonna be 3 more games, so they're gonna be crazy.
And like I said, there will be 3 more games if the Kings win Game 5.
There we go. That's
we'll
fair.
see.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not doubting you.
No, who fucking knows and who cares?
Exactly. But all right. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much everything.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully, uh, we can still talk about how the Kings are in the playoffs. When would Game 7 be? Because I know Game 6 would be on Friday. So would Game 7 be on Sunday?
Yeah, it
So
would
we
be
might not even
Sunday.
talk until the series is over. So if we don't, well, then we'll have a lot to talk about next week.
We'll see what
Or
happens.
very little. Just go where the Kings go from here. It's officially the off season. It's like the worst time to do the podcast. But anyway, good luck to us going forward. It's going to be a crazy 3 games to end it. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, have a good one.